is one thing that bitchless men and people who take themselves too seriously love to do, it is hate on cultural phenomena that are catered to women. But what happens when the very movie you hate puts together the best crafted soundtrack with bands that even you love? What then? Linkin Park, Paramore, Muse, Iron and Wine, this is the cream of 2000s bands. And what do they have in common, one might ask? They are all featured on the soundtrack of Twilight 1. Yes, the movie Twilight, with werewolves, vampires, Kristen Stewart, Robert Pattinson, and certified DILFs, Carlisle and Charlie. What? How? You are intrigued, right? Good. Because today we are going to deep dive together into how one of the most solid movie soundtrack came to be, and we are going to give back to Twilight the credit it is due. Also in this video I'm going to share one of the craziest anecdotes that you will ever hear, so I would suggest sticking around. Just a small note before I begin, in this video I am going to focus on the soundtrack of the first Twilight movie, so if I leave out some bangers, it is because they were probably featured on the soundtracks of other Twilight movies. So if you're interested in me covering more of these movies' soundtracks, let me know in the comments. As always, all of the timestamps are in the description of the video. I'm your host Leo, let's deep dive together. Two big things happened in 2008. First, the subprime mortgage crisis made some of the biggest financial institutions collapse, and Twilight by Stephenie Meyer came to be on our cinema screens. Funny because these two things could be related in the anecdote that I'm going to mention later. Twilight, where do we begin? If you clicked on this video, there is a good chance that you know what the movie Twilight is, but just in case you are a newbie or you're even a fan who forgot most about this movie, here are some essential reminders. First, I'm going to talk about how the book came to be, because it is quite a story, trust me. There is a lot to say, but bear with me, okay? So, in 2005, this cover appeared in our libraries, and the world hasn't been the same ever since. How did this appear? Well, it's quite simple. On June 2nd, 2003, Stephenie Meyer, a Mormon stay-at-home mom from Phoenix, Arizona, with 3 children, has a dream. In this dream of hers, and I quote here, "It was 2 people in kind of a little circular meadow with really bright sunlight, and one of them was a beautiful, sparkly boy, and one was just a girl who was human and normal. And they were having this conversation. The boy was a vampire, which is so bizarre that I'd been dreaming about vampires, and he was trying to explain to her how much he cared about her, and yet at the same time, how much he wanted to kill her." End of Stephenie Meyer's quote. So then Stephenie writes down her dream, and then she takes 3 months to write down a whole book about her dream, with all the story it inspired her. The novel then gets published in 2005, and then she signs a $750,000 contract with Little Brown and Company, so she can write the 3 following books in this series. I cannot stress enough how bonkers this writing and publishing process were. This is crazy. Like, any aspiring author will tell you that this is the fantasy. This does not happen in real life, but it did happen to Stephenie Meyer. So this is quite insane. The book has received many critics when it came out and over the years. The book has been accused of being badly written, of normalizing abusive behaviors like stalking, of being misogynistic with a main character suffering from the Cinderella complex. The book has been accused of pushing Mormon values, of not showing a good image of vampires. I know this one, but yeah, you heard me correctly, like, I guess justice for the vampires, but yeah. The book has also been accused of misrepresenting the Killets, which are like a real group of people, like it's not a legend, and also of not being diverse enough, and here I'm just quoting some stuff amongst other things, but yeah, this book has been accused of many things, and throughout the years, Stephenie Meyer has been really animate about defending her work. But all of these things did not keep the book from being a huge success. The saga has sold more than 100 million books throughout the world and close to 50 million in the US alone. Also, something that is crazy, in 2008 and 2009, so the years after the first movie was released, the 4 books of the saga were occupying the first 4 places of the USA Today bestsellers list, making Stephanie Meyer the first female author to occupy the podium at the same time. Like, I really cannot stress enough how big this book has been. I feel like this is inevitable to see a lot of hate towards like phenomena that are mostly catered to women and especially young women, but Twilight is one of these moments that launched such a huge wave of misogyny on the internet. Like, it was absolutely insane. Like, this book was really seen as just some cheesy emo girl book or like a book for women who lacked spice in their life, and for years on the internet it really was the norm to mock this book. I also feel like this is the reason why some people who worked on the movie were not really happy with being associated with it. But yeah, even I, when I was like 11, 12 and started to watch YouTube, it was just the standard for even the normal YouTubers like that I would watch to mock Twilight and make parodies of it. So for years, even I wouldn't say that I like this movie because it was really silly and people would shamelessly and violently mock you for liking this movie. Because I just want to give in this note, like, remind the fact that at the beginning of the 2000s on the internet, like, it wasn't such a diverse bunch of people. It was mostly geeks, so mostly men and young men who were really sensible to the development of new technologies, and they were really dominating the web. And well, if you didn't like what they liked, and if you liked stuff that were womanish, you would get mocked. Happily for us, all this hatred did not stop Twilight from becoming even bigger and from becoming a movie. The movie Twilight, as we know it, has been developed in 2007. The director of the film was Catherine Hardwicke. Then Melissa Rosenberg was hired to write the scenario, and I believe she worked on all 5 Twilight movies. The main roles of the movies were filled by people that I don't think we need to introduce anymore, but Bella was played by Kristen Stewart, Edward was played by Robert Pattinson, and Jacob was played by Taylor Lautner. But honestly, we had a good cast for the other main characters. We had Billy Burke for Charlie, we had Peter Facinelli for Carlisle, Ashley Greene for Alice, Nikki Reed for Rosalie, and many other prestigious guests. We even had Rami Malek in the 5th movie, which is quite insane. It's also very funny to note that Stephanie Meyer had a very different fantasy cast in mind. She wanted Edward to be played by Henry Cavill, and she wanted Bella to be played by Emily Browning, which is funny because Emily Browning actually got a small role in the movie adaptation of The Host, which is another one of Stephanie Meyer's books. There's also talk about the fact that Catherine Hardwicke was trying to push diversity in the movie cast, but that Stephanie Meyer was a bit cold to her proposals and she wanted to stick to more white people because she wanted to be close to what she had in her imagination when she was writing the book, and that is said to be one of the reasons why Hardwicke did not work on other Twilight movies. This movie series has grossed $5.28 billion worldwide. If I make a rough cut, it's more than $1 billion per movie. That is insane. Just to compare, the Harry Potter movies have grossed $7.7 billion worldwide with 8 movies. So yeah, Twilight was successful. Now, let's finally talk about Twilight's soundtrack. One of the most iconic elements of the Twilight movies are their soundtracks. And it's really funny because I feel like no one foresaw how popular the Twilight book would be, then no one foresaw how popular the movies would be, and no one foresaw how popular the soundtracks would be. Twilight, the score, was made available for digital download on November 25th, 2008, and the album was released to stores on December 9th, 2008. This movie soundtrack debuted at the first place on the Billboard 200, and it's just stayed at this place for the week it came out. It sold 165,000 copies in its first week of release, with 29% digital downloads. And both the soundtrack and the lead single Decode by Paramore were nominated for the 2010 Grammy Awards. So yeah, it worked fine for this soundtrack. Regarding the people that we have to thank for this soundtrack, we have Catherine Hardwicke, the director of Twilight, and she actually talked a lot about the fact that they were quite fortunate because when she was writing the books, Stephanie Meyer made playlists of the songs that inspired her while she was writing, so that actually helped, Catherine Hardwicke a lot. We also have Alexandra Patsavas. She was the music supervisor of the movie, and she really worked on recreating the feeling of Forks, the city where Twilight is taking place. And she also wanted to create an edgy and haunting track that would match the supernatural aspect of the movie. And yeah, I think that she did a pretty good job at that. And then we have Carter Burwell. He is the composer of the movie score, and he was brought to the project to add depth to the music, and he is the one who composed Bella's Lullaby, and I think that he made an amazing job on this movie soundtrack. If there's one thing you need to remember about your haters, it is that they are your biggest fans. Even a person who takes themselves too seriously cannot deny that the Twilight soundtrack slaps. And it's really funny because while I was deep diving into this topic, it was quite funny to see people who really wanted to hate on the movie, like they still had to be like, okay, but the soundtrack slaps, alright. But it's the only good thing about this movie, I would never watch it, okay? And I want to give a concrete example. At the end of the movie, when the credits are starting, you can hear the song 15 Step by Radiohead. But this song is not on the movie soundtrack, and leave out all the rest by Linkin Park and Decode by Paramore, even though these two songs are also playing just during the movie credits. I did not find the reason why 15 Step is not on the movie soundtrack, so if you know, please let me know in the comments. But the funny thing is that I went on the Radiohead subreddits, and it was really funny to see some fans talk about the fact that 15 Step was featured in Twilight. Some people were like, oh, thank God it didn't make it to the soundtrack. A lot of people were happy that it wasn't too associated with the movie. Even in the comments, I saw some people complaining and people answering to them like, oh, don't worry, the movie's bad, but the soundtrack is good. It's the only good part of the movie. Don't worry, don't worry. Take a chill pill, it's fine. I also found many articles by people who took themselves too seriously, especially men, dissing Twilight, and it's really funny to see them dance around the fact that the soundtrack is amazing and features band that men love, while still trying to be like, oh, I'm better than the movies, I would never watch them, it's just for emo girls. And I just want to say, if a movie made a song famous, the song is not better than the movie, and the band that wrote the song is not better than the movie. If this song needed the movie to get big, it can't be better than the movie, I'm sorry. So take off your Mr. Serious hat and enjoy stuff, please. I found this comment on the Radiohead subreddit where this dude is like, so they were talking about the Twilight soundtrack. Some dude is like, fortunately, you don't have to watch the films to listen to the music. Yeah, it's okay. You do what you want. And there's this dude who's like, of course, I don't have to watch them, but I'm doing a cringe week, so it's my duty to watch them all. My dude, it's okay to watch Twilight. I don't take 2 hours to watch movies that I don't like. So it's okay to like stuff, okay? It's gonna be okay for you, I promise. Now let's talk about the songs on the soundtrack. First song on the soundtrack is Supermassive Black Hole by Muse, and it was written by Matthew Bellamy and produced by Rich Costey. This music is featured during the oh so famous baseball scene. You know what I'm talking about, I know it. This song was also featured on the FIFA 7 soundtrack and Guitar Hero 3. So overall, a pretty cohesive artistic direction. This song charted at number 4 on the UK official single chart in June 2006. And it's important to note that at the time, Muse was struggling to really break through in the US, and this song helped a lot. It's important to note that the director and music supervisor were really excited about this song being featured in the baseball scene. But when I came looking for how the band felt about their music being featured on Twilight, I found some a bit contradicting informations. At least it seems like not everybody in the band is as happy about their music being on Twilight. We had the bassist of Muse saying that they sold their soul by being in the movie, which is really giving small d energy, but it's okay. He also said, when we were in the studio writing it, 1 minute they said, so the movie directors, they wanted to use it in the end credits, then they said they wanted to use it in another scene, then it was another scene again, and in the end we were like, do what you want with it, we don't care anymore. And in fact, Muse cared so little that they featured other of their music on Twilight 2 and 3. But I found another interview by Matthew Bellamy where he said something very sweet in my opinion. He said, it made a really big difference in America. Our shows went from being a rock crowd with mosh pits, suddenly the shows were flooded by teenage girls. And that was actually great. It changed the energy of the shows and it changed the way we saw our audience, not just kind of like angry men. Choose your fighter, I'm a standby, Matthew. The second song on the movie soundtrack is Decode by Paramore, and it has been written by Hayley Williams, Josh Farrow, and Taylor Yark, and produced by Rob Cavallo. This song is featured in the end credits of the movie. So the story about this song being on the soundtrack is also quite interesting, I think. Hayley Williams, the frontwoman of Paramore, read the books, and when she saw that they were making a movie, she was really excited. And Paramore really tried to be featured on the Twilight soundtrack. Hayley Williams explained that the title and the lyrics of the songs were inspired by the complicated relationship between Edward and Bella. She says, and I'm quoting here, I chose the title Decode because the song is about the building tension, awkwardness, anger, and confusion between Bella and Edward. Bella's mind is the only one which Edward can't read, and I feel like that's a big part of the first book and one of the obstacles for them to overcome. It's one added tension that makes the story even better. This is an Hayley Williams quote, and it was posted by Stephanie Meyer back then. Decode was nominated at the 2010 Grammy Awards for Best Song Written for a Motion Picture, Television, or Other Visual Media. Honestly, I love this success for Paramore. And yeah, the song was released on October 1st, 2008, directly on Stephanie Meyer's website. So everything was intertwined back then. I love it. Since we are talking about Paramore, I want to have a little tangent because I have something I want to talk about. I picked up that Bella is probably a vegetarian because in the movie she only eats vegetarian stuff, and we see her at some point eat a garden burger, which is a vegetarian burger. And in the interview Artist on Artist with Hayley Williams and Robert Pattinson, at some point Hayley is talking about burgers, and she mentions garden burgers, which then has Robert Pattinson being like, what is a garden burger? Sir, I'm sorry, I was appalled. The man hasn't read the script. This is the only explanation. But Bella is a vegetarian, meaning that she won't eat animals for the same reason that Edward is eating animals. Bella and Edward are soulmates, and Robert Pattinson forgot about the Twilight script. Sorry, when I go on tangents, my accent goes to shit. The third song on the Twilight soundtrack is Full Moon by the Black Ghosts. And the songwriters of Full Moon are Simon Williams and Theo Keating. This song is featured at the very beginning of the movie when we see Bella move to Forks. I really think that it sets the perfect atmosphere for the movie, and we have Nancy Richardson to thank for this choice. She is one of the movie editors, and she said that the music Full Moon would be perfect for the opening of the movie. So thank you very much for this pop culture moment. Everyone thanks Nancy Richardson. The fourth song on the Twilight soundtrack is Leave Out All the Rest by Linkin Park, and it is featured during the end credits. It's really funny because I thought that this song had really good chart performances, but I looked and apparently not really. I felt like it was a monument, but perhaps it became bigger after the death of Chester. This song was part of Linkin Park's third studio album, Minutes to Midnight, and it then got on the Twilight soundtrack. The fifth song on the Twilight soundtrack is Spotlight by the band Mute Math, and it was written by Paul Meany, Dennis Hearing, and Ted Chornholm. I hope I pronounced that right. I am so sorry. I'm not trying to be funny. This song, I love it because it is featured during the first time that Bella and Edward arrive at their high school as a couple, and it is honestly so iconic. Like the cockiness of Edward in that scene, sir. Welcome me, all right. And this song was the first single of Mute Math's album Armistice. The sixth song on the Twilight soundtrack is Go All the Way Into the Twilight. It has been written by Perry Farrell, Etty Lowe Farrell, Carl Restivo, and Atticus Ross, and produced by Perry Farrell. And this song is featured at the very beginning of the prom scene. I actually love it. It's very energetic. But while I was deep diving to find information about this song, I actually discovered so many crazy anecdotes about Perry Farrell, the one who wrote and produced the song. First of all, he's the co-founder of Lollapalooza. Alright, sir. But I also found one of his crazy projects that was called New Heaven, and it's a little too insane for me to go into details into this video, but yeah, just know that it involved holograms of monkeys, VR porn, full residency for new artists, and street food, South Asian style. That was a lot. The seventh song on the Twilight soundtrack is Tremble for My Beloved by Collective Souls, and it was written by Ed Roland. This music is featured during the parking lot scene when Bella's friend almost crashes her with his car and Edward saves her. This song was originally featured on Collective Soul album Dosage from 1999, and it's really funny because the Twilight soundtrack featured a lot of songs by artists that were really indie and niche back then. And the popularity of the movie really changed the lives of some of these indie artists, and it was quite the case for Collective Soul. Here I am going to quote them. That Twilight was able to give Tremble for My Beloved a second life nearly a decade later, Roland thinks was a blessing. It was really cool that you could have something that's dated 10 years back but still could relate to teenager at that time, and someone thought it cool enough to put in the movie. I'm really happy, that some of these movies can have such a huge impact on the career of these artists, and yeah, it's really refreshing to see how excited Collective Souls were about them being featured on Twilight. The eighth song of the Twilight soundtrack is I Caught Myself by Paramore, and it is featured during the scene where Bella's friends are trying prom dresses, and in the background in the shop you can hear the song I Caught Myself. Another funny story, so I'm going to quote Ailey Williams here. Well, we had written it before I actually read the book. I wrote the lyrics on the Riot tour in 2007. when I was going through some crap with a boy. Figures, doesn't it? I thought it was cool that someone found a line in New Moon that said, I caught myself. Pretty crazy. So I don't know if this is true. I don't have an official source for this. I only found this on the Paramore subreddit. So take it with a grain of salt. But this is what I read on the Paramore subreddit. I don't have a source anymore, but Paramore had put in for Decode to be on the soundtrack. Hayley Williams really campaigned for that opportunity. She told Catherine Hardwicke she'd written another song about the book, and they said, sure, let's hear it. But they were on tour during all of this, so the best way for the production team to hear the song was using sound checks. What you are hearing in the back during the Twilight scene is the song playing is just the soundcheck version they sent as the demo. The band even said when they went to the premiere that they noticed it pretty quick. But yeah, the production team was working quick and ended up adding the demo instead. The 9th song on the Twilight soundtrack is the most iconic one in my opinion. It is called Eyes on Fire by Blue Foundation. It was written by Kristin Stubble-Tedberg, and it is featured during the scene when Bella is outside her high school waiting on the parking lot, and it's right after we have the scene where Edward is seems to be disgusted by her smell, and it's a moment when she wants to confront Edward for being so damn disrespectful. And yeah, it's the Twilight song. It's the one that goes oh 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 oh. I hope you enjoyed that. I won't do that again. Kristin Stubble, so the woman who wrote the song, said that when she first saw the movie, she jumped when she heard her voice, and I think it's really cute that she was so excited about her song being on the movie. Here is what Kristin has to say about this scene. Here she's talking about Bella. She's standing up for herself, and that's the energy of the song. It's about setting boundaries with anyone who makes you feel smaller and doing it in a way that is graceful and with dignity. It's about expressing your own truth, healthy anger. So yeah, if you want to listen once again to the Twilight song, it's called Eyes on Fire by Blue Foundation. The 10th song on the Twilight soundtrack is Nether Think, and it is actually by Robert Pattinson, and it is featured during the scene where Edward and Bella are at the restaurant, and Edward is like, I can't read your mind, shouty, because I can read minds. Okay. And also during one of the end scenes when Bella is between life and death. And once again, it's a funny story because Nikki Reed, the actress who plays Rosalie, is the one who went to Catherine Hardwicke and who told her, well, Robert Pattinson has a great voice. You should put him on the soundtrack. Catherine Hardwicke herself paid for a studio where she could record Robert Pattinson singing, and she took her computer, put it in front of him, and he actually recorded himself while watching the scene. So it's such an interesting process. And it's also a good reminder that the first Twilight movie really was an indie movie, and it only grew a lot after that. To highlight this fact, the first Twilight movie budget was 37 million US dollars, and the budget of the 5th movie was $136 million. Yeah. The 11th song on the Twilight soundtrack is Flightless Bird, American Mouth by Iron and Wine. This song was written by Sam Beam and produced by Sam Beam and Ryan Deck. It is the song that is featured during the prom scene when Edward and Bella are dancing together, and Bella is like, turn me into a vampire, and Edward is like, what are you on, shouty? I won't do that, no. I love the story too, Flightless Bird, American Mouth was actually chosen to be included in the movie because the actors were rehearsing the scene, so where Bella and Edward are dancing, and Kristen Stewart was like, I think this song could be really good for this scene, and the directors and people on set listened to the song and liked it so much that they kept it for this scene. I'm gonna quote Sam Beam here. He says that this song is him talking to America and describing their relationship. He expressed that this song changed his life, which I'm not surprised, and once again, it's actually really cool to see the impact this movie had on indie artists. If you want to learn more about this song, there is an episode of the podcast Song Exploder that has an interview of Sam Beam where he explains how he made the music, so that is really interesting. I'm going to put the link down below. The 12th and final song of the Twilight soundtrack is the very iconic Bella's Lullaby by Carter Burwell, so the man who wrote the whole score for the movie. And it is featured during the scene when Bella visits the Cullen house and Edward and her are having fun in the trees and really spending time together. So it really is Bella's theme song, and once again, the story behind this song is so interesting. So actually Carter Burwell wrote this song for his ex-girlfriend, and years later he works on the Twilight movie. The ex-girlfriend is now his wife, And when they were like talking about what could they have as Bella's lullaby, he thought back to this song and he was like, maybe we can take that. He asked his now wife, and they featured it on the Twilight movie. So he said that he wrote this music for a woman he loved but had a complicated love with, and it's great because it really fits the story of Bella and Edward. And in the movie, Edward is playing the song to Bella, so it's actually a pretty nice little callback, I think. Now, let me rank the songs. I really was excited about this. I love ranking discographies. I'm gonna go from bottom to top. It doesn't mean that I don't like the songs that are in the bottom, it just means that I like them less. So we have Spotlight, go all the way into the Twilight, Netherthink, Tremble for My Beloved, I Cut Myself, Full Moon, leave out all the rest, Eyes on Fire. Now we're in the top 5. These really are the songs that I am obsessed with. Then we have Supermassive Black Hole, Bella's Lullaby, Decode, and the first song is Flightless Bird, American Mouth. I love this song so much. I'm a huge fan of Iron and Wine, and yeah, I love Sam Beam's writing, so this song had to be the first. Now, this video is almost over, but I promised you a little anecdote, remember? What if I told you that the attacks of 911 caused the downfall of Ellen DeGeneres? Oh my god, that's insane, what? Okay, bear with me. On September 11th, 2001, we had the fall of the Twin Towers, which inspired Gerard Way to create the band My Chemical Romance because he witnessed the attack of 9/11. Then, My Chemical Romance inspired Stephanie Meyer while she was writing the Twilight books. Then, Twilight inspired E.L. James to write the 50 Shades of Grey book series. Then, 50 Shades of Grey was made into films that starred Dakota Johnson in the main female role. That led to Dakota Johnson becoming extremely famous and being invited on The Ellen Show several times, which led to Dakota Johnson inviting Ellen DeGeneres to her birthday party, which led then to Ellen DeGeneres not caring about that and accusing Dakota Johnson of not inviting her publicly, which led to the then very famous "That's Not True, Ellen," which sparked a wave of people coming out about how Ellen DeGeneres is such a shitty human being and how she treats people badly, which led to her show being cancelled. So yeah, that is quite the butterfly effect. Thank you very much for watching this video. I hoped it helped you rediscover the Twilight soundtrack. I hoped it helped you rediscover some songs that maybe you had forgotten about, or I hope that it helped you discover these amazing songs. I hope you had a great time. I definitely did. I really enjoy making these deep dives. So if there is any more subject that you want me to deep dive on, whether it's another Twilight movie or another movie soundtrack or just another album like I did with Preacher's Daughter by Ethel Cain, let me know down below in the comments. If you want to support my channel, I put the link of my Patreon down in the description. If you can't afford that, you can just like or share this video, it's helping tremendously. If you don't want to miss anything, I suggest that you subscribe right now and activate the bell. Don't forget to rewatch Twilight to keep yourself occupied until I put out another video, and I will see you very soon.